Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Love Shack, baby. I hope you're all having a great day. If you're new here, my name is Joseph Tittel, aka Spiritman JT, spiritual medium and psychic for over 3 decades. Today, we are going to take a look at some of my past predictions that just came into fruition, revolved around earthquakes, but also the huge warning that is still in place for earthquakes in the month of August and even towards the end of the year, where I see big shakings taking place. So let us first get started by looking at the earthquake map. But the first thing you may recall, if you've been following me long enough, was just over a month ago on my Tea Time episode where I said that we would be seeing a 8.0 or larger earthquake. I also spoke about seeing tsunamis take place. And we didn't see the big tsunami that I've seen in my visions, but we did see tsunamis taking place from that big 8.8 earthquake that hit off the coast of Russia. And I did say that there would be also a big earthquake in Russia. And I remember in the comments, someone's like, Russia doesn't get earthquakes. Everybody gets earthquakes, especially now that the earth plates are shifting. The whole earth is shifting and moving into a whole new earth. And in order for that to happen, major events are going to happen with the earth as far as earthquakes, tsunami, movements of land coming from under the sea, rising up, along with land, of course, going under the sea. Not just in the near future, but between now and 2030. We are in this pivotal time when it comes to big earth shifts. This is something that occurs depending on who you listen to or believe, but some say 3,200 years, some say every 15,000 years. Regardless of which one it is, we're at that point. We're at that point, and it's not all going to happen at one time. People think that the poles are just going to suddenly flip around. It's not going to work out that way, thankfully, because otherwise none of us would survive, even if those rich people in their bunkers underneath. So I want you to first take a look at some of the things that I have said in the past revolved around the earthquakes and the earthquake activity. First, let's take a look at 2 clips. I got 4 clips for you. I couldn't find the other ones. Maybe someone will let us know in the comments down below. But let's start. Both of these clips come from my July forecast and predictions for July. And all pretty much, mostly all coming into fruition. But take a look at this, starting with what I said about earthquakes. We are heading into this window now of extremely heightened earthquake activity that goes alongside with all the other heightened energies and activity. So larger earthquakes hitting multiple places coming in the very near future. I feel larger than normal earthquakes hitting Japan, China, Turkey, United States, and Russia. Again, not all at once, of course, or not all necessarily in this month, but coming up in the very near future. Some of them will be really within the coming weeks. And I feel Japan is going to have their hands full when it comes to roadways and bridge issues. And I would feel likely this would be maybe due to an aftermath of a earthquake or tsunami of some sort. And I've recently seen visions of a roadway overpass, the overpasses you see. I had visions recently of the overpasses collapse down to the lower levels. And it reminded me of the LA earthquake decades ago. It reminded me of that. So I'm not sure if this is Japan. I don't know if they have overpasses like that there. It felt like it could have been more like here in the United States, actually. Perhaps Los Angeles, being that Los Angeles and that past memory of the LA quake popped in my mind. Sometimes spirit will have things pop in my mind from the past to relate them to current or coming up events. So we'll have to keep our eyes out and see. To say that we are going into a heightened earthquake activity window is actually beyond what I even imagined it would be. The amount of earthquakes, and from how long I've been following, is record-breaking. We'll talk about that in a minute. But check out this other clip, also from my July forecast, and this is put out always at the end of the month, so this is put out at the very end of June. And this is what I said about us going into tsunami season. I know that we are in, according to my spirit guides, tsunami season for the first time in a very long time. Now, I've had continuous visions going back a few years that I've lately gotten stronger and stronger. Those visions are that I saw of several extremely battered coastlines. Coastlines full of devastation, like so much devastation. Boats piled up together, debris for miles, vehicles pushed together. And I can only imagine that this would have to be from a large tsunami. I mean, it could be one heck of a friggin' hurricane or cyclone, but this was multiple coastlines, like different places, like different countries, kind of at the same time. So, and again, that could be storm related, but I'm thinking it would be more likely from some type of a large tsunami hitting multiple coastlines at once, or even several separate tsunamis. One comes after another. I know that we are in, according to my spirit guides, tsunami season for the first time in a very long time. So that speaks highly of itself. When it comes to spirit, they're right on with giving us windows of time and information. And if they say we're going into tsunami season, I'll take that very serious. Interesting enough that visions will often come to me more and more often as we are approaching a time where things are going to fall into fruition. And some of these predictions about these tsunamis go back at least 2 years ago in my visions and even in channeled predictions. We're going to look at some of those channeled predictions in just a moment from this year, not going back 2 years. Unless somebody has a link to that, they can leave in the comments. I greatly would appreciate that. We're definitely again in that heightened type of season when it comes to earthquakes, and then Spirit saying tsunami season. Never heard Spirit say that to me before, and I've been doing predictions for almost 20 years, starting off on Philadelphia radio. I've been following these cycles and earthquakes, not all that time, maybe about 10 years, following the earthquake map. And it's been pretty intense. Now, in that last clip, you saw and heard me talk about seeing battered coastlines. I don't believe that's all going to be necessarily tsunami and earthquake related. I do believe a lot of that's also going to be related to typhoons, hurricanes, and so forth, especially record-breaking size hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones. We'll see more of that towards September, October, November, that last part of the year. We're out of the woods as far as the intense energies for a little while, but just a short break, I'd say, in September. Things are intense. 2025 is an intense year. And the predictions and the visions are all just falling into line one after another. If we go back to that first clip that I showed you, I said I saw major earthquakes taking place in Japan, China, and China did have major earthquakes earlier part of this year. Turkey. Now, Turkey, I predicted the one they had a few years back, right before it happened, a couple days before it happened, actually. On a Tea Time episode, Spirit just threw it in my ear, threw it out to y'all, and then it happened. But I see another one like that in Turkey. I don't know when. I know people will ask in the comments. I don't have timelines on things. Sometimes when Spirit will give us dates, but not necessarily for specific earthquake events. And then we also get time windows. And we are still in that earthquake tsunami season window. Perhaps for the next few months, actually. Things are just going to uptick more and more. So Turkey is going to get another one. Opposite side, Spirit says, than where the last one was. I'm a little geographically challenged. I'd have to look at the map and see where the last one was. But I'm sure people that know that area and that territory will know where I'm talking about. Opposite side of the country. Also causing major leveling. Now, I also mentioned in there, as you saw, that I talked about United States also getting a massive earthquake, and then also Russia. And Russia just had that major earthquake, the largest that we've seen in about a decade, maybe a little bit longer, So now I want you to look at this clip, and this goes back to May, all the way back to the month of May predictions. These were channeled predictions in deep trance meditation. Give a listen. I see this large, that I can only explain to be a large explosion that happens beneath the water. I'm looking out, I'm out in the water. I feel like I'm far out. I don't see any land where I'm at. And I'm just floating above, observing, I assume, the ocean or some type of sea structure, when I just feel this large explosion, and I feel it like literally like a bomb that blows from beneath the sea. And I see this large surge of energy and this large fountain that just shoots up so high into the skies. It literally shoots up in past the clouds. And I just see this gusher that just continues to gush. And I feel this cracking that begins to happen, this unsettling beneath the ocean. I do not feel necessarily that this is an actual bomb explosion. It feels like the earth just exploding with anger upon the waters. The big explosion from beneath the sea. I believe without a doubt that there will actually be multiple, not necessarily all this year, but in coming years, we're going to see so much activity beneath the oceans, not just the Pacific Ocean, but also especially the Indian Ocean. I felt and predicted a while back that there'd be two big rifts, which is basically splits beneath, cracks and splits that'll be beneath the ocean, one in the Indian Ocean, one in the Pacific Ocean. Actually, perhaps two in the Pacific Ocean, says the spirits, two in the Pacific Ocean. One of those I pointed to on the map multiple times. I'll point to it again as we look at the earthquake map in a moment. The 8.8 that hit Russia is so very, very close to the spot. It's not far. It's not next door, but it's pretty close to where I pointed to on the map as far as the underwater explosion, which would be, of course, a volcanic explosion. Some people have asked questions in the past about, apparently there was a nuke that fell off back in WW2 and went into the ocean or something, and people think it's related to that. I don't get that vibe. I don't get that feeling at all. I get more of a feeling that that's deactivated in some form or another, probably from the space people. Wouldn't surprise me. So this is the Earth. The Earth is shifting. And most of it's natural, but not all of it's natural. Now, remember also what Spirit said, that when it comes to Russia, that they were going to use technology to make such an event happen. I don't believe that's the case with the one that just happened, because I was feeling that would be more within Russia, like closer to Moscow. If you were going to use technology to cause such an event, you would want to hit somewhere like Moscow. So my warning still goes out to the folks in Moscow, especially as things are starting to heat up even more between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. Very tense times for sure. Now, going back to that whole rift, this particular meditation goes back to, and I forget the date of this. I will look while you watch. But give a listen. This is what I said around the area of Japan in another separate channeled prediction video. On the southern tip of Japan, watching from high land, as if I'm looking down towards the people enjoying themselves on the shorelines and coastlines of Japan. I'm not far from a big city. Not Tokyo, but a big city in the southern part of Japan. As I watched the ocean from high ground, the ground begins to shake intensely, violently, like nothing. People fall immediately to their knees because the ground shakes so hard you can't stay balanced. I look off to the ocean and I see a massive wave coming. This earthquake and tsunami is going to disrupt the plates beneath the Pacific Ocean, which in time will unleash a series of massive earthquakes and tsunamis hitting all those areas from Japan, southern Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, and even certain coastlines of Australia, as these plates become ignited once this massive earthquake hits in that part of the Pacific right beneath southern Japan. Spirit shows me a massive volcanic eruption taking place in Alaska, causing great shakings to nearby villages and towns. Mount Spur. I have Spirit gives me this strong feeling that United States will see the eruption of 3 volcanoes in a row within a short time span of several months apart. Alaska, Washington. Now, that particular clip comes from my June channeled predictions, which was released in the first week of June. Now, listening to that again and going over that, I talk about Mount Spur in Alaska, which is interesting. In a recent prediction or recent information I received from Spirit was that there was going to be two big ones that would erupt. And I was feeling that it would be connected between Mount Spur and perhaps Mount St. Helens. Even though people are worried about Mount Rainier, I'm not quite concerned about that as much right now. Maybe in the future as we start to see again between now and 2030. Remember, Spirit told me back in 2016 or 2017 that 2025 to 2032 would be the most intense time on the planet for humanity. And a lot of that is going to be related to the shifting of the climate and the plate movements and everything else that's happening. Which, again, in turn, that's why it's always important to make sure that you're stocked up on food and you always have an escape plan and a preparation plan. Because you never know. You might not get earthquakes now. It doesn't mean you're safe from them in the future. I also pointed to an area in the United States along the Mississippi River towards the Midwest. That's the area that I feel that is going to shake greatly, likely before California shakes. Now, we do have to keep our eye on Mount Spur because Spirit did say that that would be a sign. And earlier this year, Spirit talked about 3 big volcanic eruptions happening, two followed by the third one being beneath the ocean. So that would either be the one in the Pacific that I'll point to when I pull up the earthquake map for you. There's also the concern that I pointed to off the coast of Oregon. Now, Spirit says that area is going to get active again, especially near Vancouver Island and downwards. There'll be a small blast before a large blast. So there'll be some type of a pre-warning of some sort. A small blast to the water, and then later a bigger blast. And that could be weeks or months later. So I'm not so concerned about that. The biggest concern, of course, is the Pacific. I was also just getting information from Spirit about Indonesia. Indonesia feels to me that it's going to have some problems, including problems with some type of tsunami waves. I'm not sure if those tsunami waves are connected to what happens in the Pacific or if it's what happens in the Indian Ocean. But as far as right now and where we're concerned with earthquake and tsunamis, remember, Spirit just said we're just going into tsunami season in July. And Mother Earth waited to the very end of July to show us that it was true. Because we saw, luckily, not major tsunamis that caused people to perish, thankfully. But there were still significant tsunamis from Russia to small waves that hit coast California, Hawaii, and even parts of Japan. Big evacuations. And luckily they evacuated. They'll give people a little preparation for the future. Because, when you're all stuck in traffic, what are you going to do? You have to have a different plan. You have to have a different plan. Go to the high tops. Go to the high tops, says the spirits. Climb the mountains. Climb the buildings. Get out of there. So now let us take a little look at the earthquake map, because that's going to be a little bit important. So let me pull that earthquake map up. Oh, and before bringing up the earthquake map, I think it's really important to note a couple things. I look at the map, and normally when it's just regular activity, no heightened earthquake activity, I always look at the 4.5 earthquakes or higher. And usually maybe between, say, 65 and 85. That would be the average every week, 4.5 or higher. When I looked at the map earlier this week, before the big Russia quake hit, I looked at it Monday, or actually I looked at it Tuesday morning, and that earthquake hit Tuesday evening. I was recording my show, I looked. There was about 130, 135 earthquakes over 4.5 or higher, which would be heightened activity. So whenever I say heightened activity, that's usually where it jumps to, somewhere between 120, 140. Friends, I have not ever seen this before. I'm not saying it's never happened, but I haven't seen it in all the years of following this. So give it a little look here. 4.5 magnitude earthquakes or higher. 404 earthquakes, friends. 404 earthquakes in the past week, 4.5 or higher. That is almost triple. Actually, yeah, that is more than triple of heightened activity. And that's more than quadruple of, yeah, wow. Looking back at it. And I am recording this August 1st. It's 3:14 p.m. in the afternoon here in beautiful Sedona, Arizona. We see a 4.7 that happened here in Japan. Japan always is getting activity, and Japan's been shaking for quite some time. And if we really look at all earthquake activity, we're looking in the thousands. Look, I'll give you a little example here. Wrong one. Give you a little example. Show you the past 7 days, all magnitudes. 2,662. That is an awful lot of earthquakes in 7 days. Let's go with all magnitudes just in the past day. 319. Now, I don't look at that as often, so I don't know what the average is by looking at it. I always look at the 4.5 or higher. And again, we're at 404. Now, this morning when I looked at this, we were only at 380 some. So there's been quite a few just since this morning, over the past 6 hours, we'll say. So the Japan 4.7 that we see here, bring that up here, get rid of this. Look at all those quakes right there. Wow. Wow, our friends in Japan, look at that. That is crazy. Is that Japan? No, that's Russia, sorry. It's not Japan. That's Russia. Japan's down here. Oh my God, look at that, friends. That is just insane activity right there. Insane activity. Wow. Wow. I mean, that is just, whoa. That is such a cluster. Remember, they're 4.5s or higher, friends. 4.5 or higher. Now, if you follow Dutch Since, I haven't watched one of his videos in a very, very long time, but he says they usually follow along the plate lines, these quakes, in different directions. So if we were to follow along that plate line that you see here, that plate line goes right down, and it comes right down here. This is the area that I pointed to on the map. Right around here, we'll just say big circle, because it's probably bigger. Big circle right here in this area of the map was where I pointed to going back a while ago. I believe even going back last year to my map scrying. When I do weather predictions, I do map scrying where I gaze at the map and certain things in certain places jump out at me. This was the area that completely jumped out at me very strongly. And that was before the whole prophecy of the artist over there in Japan, manga artist. I didn't know nothing about that until my friends from Japan came here to visit and interview me, Toya. So if that was the blow right there, it would make sense to me saying that tsunamis would hit the Philippines, Thailand. If we look down here at Indonesia, what would bring their tsunamis? Same area, likely the same area, busting over there. Now, yesterday morning when I looked at this, and it was only at 300 and some, which is still so high, like so high, friends. There were 9 of the earthquakes that were in the red. So as we scan down here, the red are the big shakers that have the biggest effect. And these are all small now. Now, the last I looked this morning, there were 6. So the other 3 popped off. So the 6.4, again, Russia. And that was on the 30th. And then right down here, we'll see the big 8.8. Oh, it disappeared because there's so many darn earthquakes. It's not there anymore. Oh, there, no, 6.9. Oh, there we go. 8.8. Tsunami. We had the 5.7 down in Guatemala, all the way over there. That was in the red. Not too bad, but still in the red. The Fiji Islands, which seems to be really active again lately, too. Not that it's unusual for the Fiji Islands to get earthquakes, but when we look at this area of the map, too, I warned areas of Sydney, and I feel that there's some kind of major plate movement that's happening around Australia that affects Sydney. That would also, I pointed up here to this part of the map, the upper part of the map, where I talked about the islands. Papua New Guinea, then there's a row of islands, and I felt like there was going to be, this could be an area where we potentially see an island disappear under the water, as I saw in visions going back many years ago, actually. But we see Fiji over here starting to heighten up a little bit. Fiji being a nice place to go. Australia, I would love to go to that place. It just takes forever to get there in an aeroplane, friends. Takes forever. But now as we go on, go down, 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 we had the Inquirer Island region. Again, right below Australia, which is kind of interesting. And that is right there on a plate boundary. Right there on a plate boundary. So it would be this plate boundary where I would believe that there would be a major, not massive, but a major earthquake that would send some big waves heading towards Sydney and Melbourne. I don't feel like that's necessarily in the very near future, but we are in this uptick of earthquake activity. And this uptick is unlike anything I've seen before. I mean, I'm not saying it hasn't happened before, but this is pretty crazy, the amount of them on here, on this list. And most of them are, of course, that one in Russia. But they're all 4.5s or higher, friends. So that's a lot. A lot of aftershocks are usually below that, like 2.5 or, below 4.5. Afghanistan was another place that I warned. That's a small one, no big worries. But Afghanistan, where is that on my map? There it is. Pull that up a little bit closer. Just want to see where this is in comparison to Turkey. I don't know why, but Mumbai just jumped out at me on the map. Mumbai, India. I don't know why. They are right on the coastline. Maybe that has something to do with what I saw in the Indian Ocean happening. If it happened in the Indian Ocean. Remember, we had the big one over here in Burma. Remember, that was earlier this year, or was that last year? I can't recall. Go back, we got Russia. Just look at that. That's just amazing to me. Every time I look at that cluster, and they're not small ones, friends. They're all 4.5 or higher. A lot of them are 5.0, 5.6, 5.6. And they're all kind of spread out. See how they're kind of spread out like that? Wild. I'm feeling more over here when Russia gets a big one. And there actually is a boundary line there. Let's get a little closer here. Get a little closer. Don't be shy. A lot of mountains in there. Russia. I can see Russia from my house. Remember that? Anyway, moving right along. Costa Rica. 4.8. Now, I just actually want to go back and follow this because I keep getting pulled to Alaska. I'm not pulled, it keeps popping up in my brain. Alaska up here. Now, it doesn't seem to be any real activity there, but let's just lower it a little bit. See what it looks like. I keep hitting the wrong button. Let's look at all magnitudes last day. Yeah, a lot going on there. There, let's go 2.5 or higher. Okay, they're small, but I'm kind of pulled to Alaska strongly. Right in that same little area. Right here where I'm circling, right on that boundary line right there between Canada and Alaska. Something's going on there. I'm not sure exactly where Mount Spur is on this map. I would imagine it might be right where I just pointed because I know there's snow on top of it. But I am very strongly pulled to this very area right here, which means a major earthquake in this area is going to affect Anchorage, Alaska. September popped in my mind. I don't know what's with September, but I thought things would slow down a little bit in September. September, we're in the double 9 vibration. 9s are about endings, and 9s can also bring about a lot of losses. And going back to the United States, look at that little baby there. That's right along where I would point it to. How about that? Right near Memphis, Tennessee. Remember, I saw Memphis, Tennessee shaking pretty badly. And Oklahoma, remember that? The visions I had of Oklahoma? Right along the Mississippi. This part of the Midwest in here is where I feel something big. It's going to be surprising. People are expecting it to hit the West Coast, California. California is going to get them, but California is going to see more like maybe the highest 7.0, some big shakers. especially around San Francisco and then lower down towards San Diego. I feel something big happening around Mexico City and along this coast. And then when we actually really, I gotta get down here, this area right here, Chile. I'd like to visit there. I'll be over here in Peru, but I wouldn't mind going down to Chile. Something's happening here. See where all those plates are? Right? Something big's happening here. Chile's going to have their hands full with a lot of stuff, not just when it comes to the earthquakes and potential tsunamis in the future, flooding, and unfortunate fires as well. So, friends, it's definitely heating up. Let me go back to my original 7.5 and the higher, or 4.5 or higher, sorry, not 7.5. That would be a little crazy. But that's what you have, friends. And if you're not aware, this right here is the Ring of Fire. Ring, 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 ring of fire. And it's super active right up here in the northern part of the northern Pacific. Big time. I just saw something pop over here near Greenland and Iceland. Another major volcanic eruption. I feel like that's somehow related to what's going to happen in Alaska. So we're going to have to keep our eyes peeled between Alaska, specifically Mount Spur, and somewhere in between this area up here, Greenland, and up near Iceland. Up in here. A little earthquake right there. But that's the earthquake map, friends. 405. It just moved up another one, friends. Another one just in Russia once again. Russia, that's not done. Spirit just said that's not done. Expect another great one to rift from there. To rift, that was the wrong word. To rip, that was the word. Expect another large one to rip in this area. I'd say 7.5 or higher. And I feel like, again, we're going down to this area. So we need to be aware, friends. The season's not over yet. It's not over ever because Mother Earth is shifting. But that's the earthquake map. That's what's going on with earthquakes in the past 7 days. There's a whole lot going on, friends. Pretty wild to watch. Mother Earth is super duper active right now, just as Spirit told us she would be during July and August. And that's not all, friends. She's going to become even more active as we get towards the end of the year. I feel like some kind of great big shakings happening right at the end of the year. Not even just world event shakings, but a shaking earthquake-wise. Just a reminder just popped in my head about, I said something around Christmas, like a Christmas shaker. I don't know if that Christmas shaker is earth-related or something related to something else. By the time we get closer to December, I'm sure I'll get more clarity on exactly what that could be and will be. But other than that, friends, it's been pretty amazing watching Mother Earth suddenly make all these shifts and changes. We're still in those energies with the water too. So when it comes to water, that would, of course, reflect on tsunamis. I feel like we're going into this big heat thing right now. It is August and the dog days of summer, but a lot of drought and heat. But remember what Spirit said, where there's drought, soon after will flood. So if you're in an area of drought, be aware. Here in Sedona, they set up sandbag stations. Now, to my knowledge, since I lived here for 6 years, I've never seen that. I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, I live in the canyon and I'm up high, so I'm not worried about it. I mean, water does come down, but it goes down into the creek and everything's good. But we all need to be aware at these times. Things are going to shake. Things are shaking. Not even that they're going to shake. Things are shaking. Keep an eye on Turkey. Turkey might be the next one actually on the list. Turkey. And we got to keep an eye on the volcanoes. 2 more erupt, then we'll know that rift is happening beneath the Pacific Ocean. Fingers crossed that it doesn't happen. But these visions get more and more intense. And not only am I getting the visions, I have clients that are sharing similar information through their dreams. I had a client share a dream that she had about a snow-covered mountain blasting, which she felt was Mount Spur, which makes sense. That is snow-covered. I mean, they are over there in Russia too, but more focused in her dream on North America. So things are happening, friends. Always be prepared. At the same time, Spirit makes me feel, they, meaning the globalists, want to push people away from coastlines. So be aware of that. They want to push us away from coastlines and into the cities in the future. Not necessarily now, but it's in their agenda. Nothing to fear. Remember, never be scared. Just always be prepared and always be filled with wisdom and knowledge. Know what's happening and know what's happening when it comes to the truth. I'm going to leave you with that for now, friends. If you're new here, you want accurate predictions, prophecy, and truth, don't forget to smash that subscribe. Be a part of our awesome Love Shack tribe, baby. Or the Tittel tribe. They call it all different things, but we would love to have you. Thanks for clicking that thumbs up love button. And thank you to all the supporters who make this free content possible for everybody else. If you missed my August forecast and predictions, be sure to check that out. There'll be a link above at some point and down below in the description. Also down below in the description, you can sign up for the free newsletter. I just sent out the newsletter, so if you weren't signed up, you should have got it. Check your spam folder. When you sign up, make sure that you'll get a confirmation email. Make sure that you confirm, because if you don't confirm, you're not going to get it. And again, check your spam folder. Other than that, friends, I hope that you have a beautiful weekend. And remember, to be bold, be true, be kind, be you. Let your light shine ever so brightly, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Namaste, and much love, friends. Much love.